Let's do big smiles. Did everybody get enough slips?
6 miles per set.
We do a number. Smile. Performance, guys.
Yeah, we're going running in the morning.
Running? Why would you want to do such a thing?
Excited. Because I said we were going running.
Even though I'm gonna be like behind them.
Yeah, but we're gonna be like,
Yeah, I could run like maybe here to the end of the shadow and I'd fall on the ground.
I got an egg.
You have an egg.
I got an egg.
Is it hard boiled?
No.
I think the first place to start is actually a good place right here where we're all gathered, and we're very close to the actual start point of Gisefeld. The castle originally was taken over in about 1540s by a man named Peter Ox. We'll get into his story a little bit later, but when he got here and started and looked at the first castle, he said, "Good grief, it's awfully small. I can't live in a place like that." And he got started right away building a new castle. The new castle you can see, of course, on the lake. This area up here is the old kitchen gardens, and this is actually where Gisefeld started. Snarlehoy is kind of a little hill that has a small trail which winds up to the top. What in the world would you use a little hill with a trail that winds up to the top in the 1500s? Does anyone have any ideas? It was deep down inside the bottom of the hill. Does anyone have any idea what that could be? It's a brewery. Yeah, we're missing a brewery. But how do you drink beer? Nice and warm. You put it down in a hole underneath this big hill. The hill is actually just right up here, and we're going to take a walk. Some of you can go this way. The ones that have shorts on, they don't want to go
Something else, but I don't know. I think we have to. It's not rhubarb. There's one with us that they know what it is.
The Barak Alley, or it's a pathway. It's actually a tunnel pathway. These are typical, in Danish, atelia, in Latin, atelia trees, which is a lin tree. It is a tree that can be clipped and pruned very easily. And these trees are rather old and have been trimmed this special way since the 1600s. They have been trimmed to make a complete canopy and enclose this whole space, making it a covered passageway from almost the castle up to the old kitchen gardens. Sorry? Well, these trees are not from the 1600s. They've been replanted later on, but they're trimmed in the same way as from the 1600s. The reason, why would you have a covered pathway in the 16 and 1700s? Sorry?
to stay hidden.
To stay hidden is also good, but hidden from what? Hidden from the sun, exactly. Because in the 1700s, it was very important to look as pale as possible. People that were suntanned were common workers that could be found in any field around the country. If you were a nobility that would be living in a castle like this, you would have to be as white as possible. And that meant keeping yourself out of the sun and protected from the sun. So one of these tunnel ways would be an appropriate way to keep yourself rather pale during the length of a summer. But let's jump away from the 1700s and up into the 1800s. If we look on this side of the pathway and come out into the grass a bit, this is a typical 1800 production area for a kitchen garden site where the plants would be started and planted and propagated. In fact, there were about 30 different structures on this whole lawn area at its heyday when Gisefeld was producing a lot of fruits and vegetables and also small plants for sale for houses. When they were picked, the gardener would write down on a piece of paper, "I picked 25 strawberries." Then he would walk back with his wheelbarrow past this building where in the ground floor the head gardener could look out and say, "How many strawberries did you pick today, good gardener?" "Well, my paper says 25. "Yes." Then he could count inside the barrel, were there 25 strawberries? Uh-oh, there were only 24. So he could write down, there's missing one strawberry on the way to the castle. There was a problem with that gardener. So back to the main gardener's office, and a small spanking was in order to get back on track and find out how much you had to put in your wheelbarrow.
Just a little.
But we need to go up to the castle and see what that area is like. Come on this direction, please.
That's my girdle. Really, Caitlin?
We've arrived now on what's called Castle Island. We've just crossed a moat. This is actually a fortification moat from the 1500s, although you are standing on a bridge from the 1800s. If we go back in time and try to think about what it must have been like in the 1500s, this would have been a drawbridge. If you look at the architecture of the castle, you'll notice that there's a lot of small holes where you could dump out boiling oil or tar on unwanted guests, or from the ones that are slanted down a bit more, you could shoot arrows directly down towards the heads of your opponent or unwanted guests. So the castle was an actual fortification. Normally, we're not allowed to go into this inner courtyard because the building is actually private. It's not privately owned. It's been a foundation since before America got their independence constitution in 1776. In 1701, Gisefeld received its constitution, a new constitution which changed ownership from private ownership into a foundation. But first, I'd like to take this opportunity, which is so special, to go into this inner courtyard, and then we'll go out into the more manor house courtyard on the next side. Denmark, chalk white. What a job. It is an amazing feat to chalk such a large building white for every year. It may be also difficult to believe that you can chip it off when you don't want it any longer. Also a gigantic job to do. There were also secret passages underground where you could come from the south wing all the way over to the north wing. So the castle is filled with special places. Behind walls, there's hidden panels you can press against, and all of a sudden they open up and allow you into hidden rooms and staircases. So it is a true castle. But while we're here, I think you should all go inside, have a quick look, and then we'll meet you outside again.
Got her in her place.
The old gardens and the old garden styles don't exist any longer. But the garden style we have today is based on old garden plans from about the 1850s and 60s. It's called, of course, in English, a landscape garden style. It's a romantic garden that was created by Capability Brown, that style, in England in the late 1700s. We're actually sitting on a dam. This dam holds the Gorsøen, the farm lake, back on the one side, and then it allows this landscape to open up to the horizon, which is very much in the traditional English landscape style of the late 1800s. There is a big pipe which runs from the upper lake down directly to this water fountain. This water fountain here is not with a pump or with any sort of things you have to have plugged into electrical circuits. It's a completely 100% natural flow of water running from the lake, and with this gravity and momentum of the water being pushed out, it makes a fountain. In the late 1500s, Peter Oxe, which was the man that built this castle, as mentioned, he was put in exile by the king at one point. About 8 years he was gone from Denmark, and he learned some fantastic things, which Gisefeld has reaped the benefits of for the last many generations. The one thing was carp were good to eat. and easy to raise. So he built these carp dams, the first like small lakes where you could raise carp for eating later on. You have to all look up. That's the object to be in here. It's like being in the cathedral. And we'll meet right out here. Let's go.
Kind of have two moods. I'm either hyper or flat.